you're talking week 4, there's a game that on paper should be the Shore Conference game of the year. Number 3 Donovan Catholic at number 1 Red Bank Catholic. Count Basie's gonna be rocking on Friday night, and RBC finished number 1 in the Shore last year, and Donovan Catholic definitely thought they had a case considering they beat RBC head to head. And I think they come in with a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove that this is our number 1 spot, that last year we should have been number 1, and we're here to take it from you. There was inclement, awful weather last year that some observers may have said, favored Donovan Catholic, even though both teams are playing in those conditions. But now it's supposed to be a beautiful night on Friday night. No weather issues.
No more.
A field build with FBS level talent, all Shore talent. How do you see? Let's start with, how do you see? These are 2 best defenses in the Shore Conference.
Well, let's talk storyline for a second. One storyline. The one storyline is Red Bank Catholic won a state championship, non-public B.
Right.
Donovan Catholic is in A. Now, there used to have been three sections. So
Right.
now that put Donovan Catholic with the Bergens, the Boscos, and all them. And Red Bank Catholic plays, the smaller ones there. The enrollment that separates Donovan for Red Bank Catholic is not a lot. So you have Donovan Catholic, which is the smaller A, and you have Red Bank Catholic, which is the larger B. And they're right near the divide. One team wins the state championship. The other team plays Bergen. Donovan Catholic beat Red Bank Catholic 2 years in a row. Now they're playing at RBC. If you don't think there's a chip on the shoulder for both, it's going to be so much excitement.
Well, and these are the 2 preeminent local non-public teams right now, so you have to say they compete for a lot of talent.
Yeah.
How many 7th and 8th graders, stars out there might be on the fence about which way to go, and a game like this nudges their decision in a specific direction. So I think that matters too. But yes, you're right. I think Donovan last year felt like, well, anybody would have lost to Bergen Catholic. How is that a disqualifier for us? And then RBC
That's
went
true.
on to win non-public B. If they had to play them, they would have lost to them too. So yeah, I think they're out to leave no doubt, and RBC is out to leave no doubt and say, keep saying whatever you want. Last year, we're going to start number 1 this year, and we're going to finish that way. Their goal is an undefeated season. They've never won back-to-back state titles either, so that's in the distance for them. But yeah, this is a monster game, and yeah, you want to talk about talent all over the field. And as much as they have flashy offensive players, you look at the numbers their defenses have put up so far. I mean, they basically completely stifled every single opponent they've played. RBC's starting defense has not allowed a touchdown all year. The only one was St. John Vianney against their backups in the opener. Donovan Catholic just held a good Rumson offense a couple weeks ago to negative yardage in the first half in a shutout. So, I mean, and just dominated against Manalapan, and Manalapan scored on the last play of the game when it's 35-0 at that point. So I think it's, how are these teams going to score against these defenses?
When I did the position player rankings, a lot of these guys within their own classes were rated at the highest level. Getting to see them all on the same field, I get to evaluate. Okay, There's Emmanuel Ross versus Richard Davis. There's Frankie Williams going against this guy. There is, Najee Calhoun going against. There is so many great.
And don't forget the guys up front, where a lot of this game is going to be won. You got Lorenzo Pertella, Tyler Burnham, the 2 big, highly recruited linemen for RBC. You got Adam Yevchak, E.J. Smith on the other side. I mean, these guys have been going head to head.
Zaire Day, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're looking at all short time, you're going to look back at this game and go, how did these guys do when they went straight up against each other?
Aiden Donahue was a D tackle playing, out of his position last year for that state champion team. He's now a DN, and he's wrecking guys. We have 2 of the top DN guys. You got Donahue. I have Zaire Day off the edge on Donovan Catholic. Interior, you got McGee, Miller. The other side, Samuel Rock. In the trenches, there's going to be some war going on there.
Absolutely.
Davin Bruton.
I mean, both of these teams come out always trying to establish the run. RBC with Savino Portella and Torrin Harmon, and Najee Calhoun's been having a huge season for a freshman, for whatever grade, he's been one of the best running backs in the Shore. So who's going to win that battle?
Everybody talks about who's the offensive player here. How about defensive player here? We know about Colin Gallagher. We know he's good and all that. But you got Davin Bruton for RBC, a junior's got a couple offers. And then you got Dante Veneri, the linebacker, middle linebacker for Donovan Catholic, going at it from other sides of the ball. There is going to be a lot of anticipated,
And I think you really look at the 2 or 3 electrifying playmakers at wideout who could be the difference in a game like this. A 50-50 ball between them and a D-back. They win the battle, pull it in for a score. In a game like this, that could be, you got Emmanuel Ross for RBC, multiple FBS offer kids, just like Michael Thomas has an offer from Penn State and a bunch of others for Donovan Catholic, and he's a big playmaker. RBC also has Najee Rahman, another playmaker headed to Brown. So, like a single play from one of these big-time guys could be the difference. And it was funny. I asked Ross after the game against Middletown South last week, do you keep your eye on Michael Thomas? Like, do you keep track of the other top wideouts in the Shore? And he said, yeah, I know about him. I know he's a good player. I know, I'm worried mostly about our team and everything. Yeah. But you can't tell me these players aren't on a stage like this are not going to try to outdo one another.
Now, Red Bank Catholic's got Luke Krezikowski. I think he's coming back where he had to sit out 30 days. He's playing in the game, and he's a top-level player at tight end, a junior, big 6'4", 230-pound tight end that they don't have film on probably, Donovan Catholic, but you got Ross, Stolfa, and Rahman, 3 dudes. Don't forget Stolfa. He is that guy that can kind of be slippery and make big plays. He really can. I think
and that's the other thing. How many teams have 3 or 4 top-level defensive backs to cover everybody? No. Usually they might have 1 or 2 shutdown guys, college-level guys, scholarship guys, but you don't really have 3 or 4 to where, somebody's third-level guy could be the difference in a game where it's this tightly contested.
Key to the game is Frankie Williams. He can't just sit back and pick people apart. They're going to bring pressure, and they don't have to do it with linebackers because Samuel Rock, as a DN, is really good off the football. So if they can put pressure with not blitzing, I think that would be huge. But if they have to blitz, Dante Veneri's one of the best out there. Zaire Day off the edge.
Well, and again, like you said, I think this is going to be the biggest test for Frankie Williams and Lambertson. Like both quarterbacks are going to probably see more heat than they've seen in any game all year. And can you roll out and make throws on the run? Can you make plays with your legs if you have to scramble for that 5 yards for a first down? Can you get the ball out quick if somebody's bearing down on you? And can you take care of the ball? Because in a game like this, a pick six or a bad fumble or something like that from a quarterback, that could be the difference.
I think the OCs, Joe O'Connor from RBC and Chippy LaBarker for Donovan Catholic, they're going to be creative.
That's a great matchup too.
They're going to be creative, changing the launch pad of where the ball is and all that. So they got a lot of toys, but the other team does. It's going to be exciting to see what the defense does to stifle the offense. But I think it's going to be a defensive game. I don't think it's going to be
I think both of these teams, they close so fast on the ball, and they're so physical up front. It's really hard to grind out like 10, 12 play drives against these defenses. To me, it's going to be a lot of big plays, and a lot of field position. Punting could be big in this game as far as, hey, we got this team pinned down near the goal line. We get the ball at the 45, 50. We only have to get a few first downs. We make a play. That could be the difference in a game like this.
Field position, defense, all that. Maybe I think that it's going to be somebody that you're not expecting that's going to shine in this game, like a Stolfa, which we know is a very good football player. Maybe for Donovan, will it be that freshman, Naji Calhoun, maybe shining and making his moment? But it's going to be somebody, maybe Lambertson, like you said, or maybe even Krezikowski from RBC. It's going to be somebody else because there are going to be double teams on all these other guys. Somebody's going to be open or going to make a play one-on-one. Has to.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, again, it's like the clash of the Titans in the Shore Conference. It's the biggest regular season matchup we're going to see between any teams in the Shore.
And it's going to be packed. It's hard to park there. I know it is. I'll probably be waiting at the gate on Thursday.
You got to go over to Gianni's Pizza. You get the pepperoni with the little hot honey on it. You knock down a couple of those slices, and then you just pop over to Count Basie. No problem.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll get all that sauce all over my nice Shore Football Report stuff right there. So exciting time, exciting game, big build up. I don't think people are going to be disappointed because you're going to find out who's the biggest parochial school in the Shore Conference after that game.
Yeah, and you know, the team that wins will have really staked their claim potentially to the final number one ranking. I mean, this is other than their state playoff brackets, this is going to be their biggest argument at the end of the season. We won this game. We should be the number one team in the Shore Conference. So I'm interested to see how it turns out.
Great. What other games you like out there?
I think, you look in the American Division, you still have, Rumson at Manalapan, two more top 10 teams. Rumson I think this is a huge swing game. And I mean, for Rumson, points wise for state playoffs, beating a big school like Manalapan would be huge for them as far as their push to try to get a home game, make Point Borough come to them in the state playoffs. So that's one to look at. Kind of an interesting game given last week's results. Southern Middletown North. I think Southern coming off the big win over Long Branch, the shutout win. Middletown North gaining some steam with Luke Sheen throwing 3 or 4 touchdown passes every week here, but against winless teams. Now he's got to do it against a Southern defense that had 3 interceptions last week. Yep. So I think it'll be a really interesting test. And, can the Southern offense muster enough to get the win on their side?
With Lopez and Dempsey as a DNs, it's going to be tough. Middletown North, like you said, hasn't won a game against a team that won. But two teams that whoever wins this game is going to be probably in a position that most people didn't think they would be, 3-1.
Right. And another game that I think has big divisional implications, Point Borough against Raritan, huge game in that division. Point Borough could take a really big step towards locking down the division title by going to Hazlitt and getting this win on Friday night. Raritan, this is the spot they love to be in. Everyone writes us off. We're the underdogs. We're supposed to get beat. This is supposed to be a romp, and the next thing you know, they're keeping it close in the fourth quarter, and and all of a sudden, who knows? But that's a tall order against this Point Borough team because no one has been able to touch them so far. And again, if you look at comparatively, Point Borough beat Manasquan with Brett Patton and everybody 39-13. Raritan escaped with a 1-point win against Manasquan last week. So on paper, Point Borough the heavy favorite here. I mean, how do you see this game?
You're right. I mean, Raritan's won 3 games by one score. I mean, they played Matawan, Monmouth, and Manasquan into overtime. And
you were at that game. I mean, Raritan had some injuries, like some guys taken off the field against Manasquan too, right?
Yeah, hopefully they're okay. I don't want to mention who they were and all that, but they played 3 close cardiac games, like you would call it. So they're battle tested. Let's just keep it at that. As a coach, you want to see how your team does with adversity. The game's going back and forth. Well, they won all 3 of their games. So they got to feel pretty good about themselves. And they haven't been 3-0 since 2015. So, you want to play. I don't think you want to say house money, you're playing win all that because you're Raritan. You play better football as the year goes on, and that's going to be a big game within the division.
And also another big division game on Friday night in the small school division. You got in the Patriot division, Keyport going to Shore Regional. And Keyport getting that big win over Point Beach kind of, I think, put them right up there as a top contender. Shore is always a top contender. They're coming off a 58-0 win over Keensburg. So to me, this game could potentially decide that division. I mean, it's not in stone, obviously, yet, but I would think the winner of this, you still have Asbury Park out there as a wild card, very talented team. But to me, the winner of this game is going to, I would say, be close to being in the driver's seat there in that division.
Now, Nazir Treadwell, we always talk about him, but the way to beat Kaz is you got to win the trenches. Ryan Burns, Kevin Fitzgerald, they got to dominate or at least neutralize because, again, to beat Cosentino, you got to win the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Lucas Rosa on Shore Regional. He's averaging He's averaging 7.9 yards a carry.
Yep.
So in that wing tee, they're going to line up and come right at you. And if you can't match them up front, you're in trouble.
Jackson Whitaker, 6'4", 230 DN tight end. I compare him to my kid that I had, Sean Morris, from a couple years ago, but he's bigger, and that's scary because my player was very good. This kid right here, I think, is a big Division I football
Well,
player.
and that's the thing, and he's one of the most elite pass rushers in the short conference. Where if they can make Keyport one-dimensional, where they're in passing downs, then they can unleash Whitaker to just get after the quarterback, and that's the situation they want to be in. And Keyport wants to definitely avoid that. I mean, Keyport's biggest issue is they're getting behind a lot. I mean, all of their games are like crazy comeback wins in the fourth quarter. And sure, because of the way they play offense, they can sit on the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want to get behind against them because they might take 7 minutes off the clock on one drive. So I think that's going to be big for Keyport to just try to stay within striking distance, within one score, and hit Shore with some big plays. Use your speed. Try to get Treadwell out in space. He scored on a 60-plus yard screen pass last week, so the screen game. Stuff like that, I think that's going to how you're going to have to counteract them.
Interesting matchup. Mike Furlong, the kicker, punter kicker at Shore, is definitely a weapon for him too. So, I mean, Shore divvies up the football a lot too, so nobody's really getting big stats one side.
I mean, Alex George, though, also over 6 yards a carry. So they got multiple guys back there who can hurt you. But you're right. So much of it comes down to the line play. If they're going to move the ball 4 yards at a time, they're just going to drain the life out of you and go on these 6-7 minute drives and just exhaust you, especially at the Group 1 level. If you don't have depth and they wear you out, they can really, drive the score up in the second half. Yeah, when you're looking at just some other games to keep an eye on this week, obviously the American Division always loaded with the top 10 teams. You got Wall searching for their first win, Middletown South trying to bounce back from a really tough game against RBC. So that to me is a big kind of swing game, especially as far as these teams' state playoff hopes are concerned. Another interesting game, Marlboro at Howell. Marlboro trying to go to 4-0. That's a very rare start for them. They're making that push to be right there in the division title conversation. You gotta say it right now that they're one of the bigger stories in the Shore. But now in this next stretch of 4 games, we're going to find out if it's for real.
Now, Scott, we talked about this earlier. Howell lost a lot of 50-50 games last year. They lost 5 games, right? And now they're at the same situation. They're 1-2, and they're looking at almost a must-win game against a good Marlboro football team who wants to keep it rolling. So this is a very interesting game right here. Could it be an upset? I don't know. But Howell's good enough to win this game. But Marlboro's on a roll. They're just tough right now.
Right. I mean, this is the season they've been pointing to for a while now. I mean, and it's not just, I know everybody knows Cassidy and some of the others, but, Ryan Mendez, leading receiver, tackler, Anthony Tropiano. Matt Cassidy, we all know, is a great offensive player, but he also has 34 tackles on defense. So, yeah, this is what they've been pointing to as a breakthrough season now for a while. And now another game that's almost a little surprising at this point. Somebody's going to get their first win when Central heads to Lacey. Like, given those two programs, especially Lacey, it's surprising that we're, this deep. I know Central's been really hurt by injuries, but yeah, that game is, the first team is, the team's going to get their first win in that game.
I coached for 6 years in that rivalry. Doesn't matter what your record is. You throw it out. The communities bond. They get together. And that Lacey Central is a fierce, fierce rivalry. But I'll tell you right now, we talked about this earlier. I don't recall ever midseason Central and Lacey not having a win playing each other. So it's going to be a little different dynamics. But these kids are going to be going balls out. And, you see a good hard-nosed football game. Someone's going to come out with a win, and then the other team is not going to be used to being 0-4. Not used to it.
And you have 2 teams favored that are looking to bounce back from tough losses. Jackson Memorial is playing winless Freehold. Brick Memorial playing winless Neptune. Those are 2 opportunities for those teams to get wins after a tough loss last week. And then another game that I think is a very interesting swing game. Brick at Red Bank Regional, as far as again, making a playoff push, getting wins now to, start stacking towards 4 or 5 victories to try to get you into the state playoffs. Brick's won a couple in a row. RBR's coming off their first win. I think this is an interesting kind of toss-up game.
It's a tricky game for Brick Township because Red Bank's explosive. Not as good on defense, but offensively, they move the football, but then they shoot themselves in the foot with penalties or a turnover. So Red Bank could easily be 2-1. So this is a tricky game for Brick. If Brick gets to be 3-1, I didn't see this as happening in the beginning of the year because they're very inexperienced guys. But Red Bank is a dangerous football team at home, got the win under their belt with Pierce Olson and the receivers Hicks and Kyan Martin. They're dangerous. And Jasir Jones, there's some weapons. So Brick's got their handful playing Red Bank on the road.
And then we look at another big divisional game that I think maybe have snuck up on a couple people. I don't know if you would have said before the season, hey, the St. John Vianney Manasquan game, that's going to be a really crucial game. But Manasquan's going to have their backs against the wall here. They're staring at 0-3. St. John Vianney's won 3 in a row. And they're looking to step up and say, hey, we're the one of the prime challengers to Point Borough in this division. Squan was missing Brett Patton. They've kind of been discombobulated these first couple games. I think that there's a lot riding on that game.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Patton's playing in this game, and if he's not, they're going to be in a little bit of a hole. But being 0-2, Manasquan's not used to doing that. Jameer Howard is going to have to take the load. St. John Vianney's doing a great job playing good team football right now. And the main thing is they're believing, and they're playing with high energy. So they're scary right now, St. John Vianney's at Vianney. So Manasquan's looking at almost a must-win game against the St. John Vianney team.
And then, not the easiest spot for Long Branch. You come off a shutout loss to Southern, really tough loss. They get an interception there in the end zone at the end, and then now you have to play Toms River North, which has just been a threshing machine since like the minute the season started. That is a really tough game for Long Branch to try to have to right the ship after last week.
There's going to be a lot of athletes on the perimeter from both teams. Long Branch has got dudes too, Shamar Williams, Mike Hall, Reevy, but Toms River North is massive up front, massive, and their linebackers, they're the guys in the box, the linebackers, the linemen, the running back, they own the box, Toms River North, and that's why they're winning. But they can play with anybody in the skill wise, but that separates them from every other team. So Long Branch, I don't think, is as strong in the box with their D line. So Toms River North will probably be imposing the run game with those massive linemen.
And then we have your guy Tyler Douglas, Ocean heading to Toms River South, looking to keep that push going for a division championship. And then we have Jackson Liberty heading to Manchester, is trying to get those good vibes back that they had the 2-0 start after the tough loss to Matawan. They're looking to get Jackson Liberty doesn't have a divisional win yet, so they're looking to break into that column. And again, Manchester, a team that state playoff berths have been pretty rare in their history.
Yeah.
So you get a win here, you get to 3 wins, like you're really getting close to, it's becoming more of a reality.
It's a huge win at huge game at Manchester. 3-1. That's a big rivalry, Jackson Liberty, Manchester. Anyone who wins, it just kind of resurrects their season again. But could you imagine Manchester being 3-1? That would be a good statement for their team.
And then you have your old squad, Barnegat, heading to Toms River East, which is coming off its first win over Pinelands. Again, I think this is like we're getting to that separation point of, are we going to have a shot at the state playoffs or are we not? And these are the type of games that send seasons in different directions.
Toms River East 1-2 could just as well be 2-1. Barnegat 2-1. This is a huge game for Barnegat to get to 3-1 and make some games important later in their schedule. But East needs to win this game. This is a must-win for both teams. It really is. So I think this is a 50-50 game. Playing at East, it's probably going to be a tough game for Barnegat. East can't make any mistakes like they did in the Manchester game and also South. But this is a must-win game, I think, for East to get back on those winning ways.
And I think this other game that's very fascinating to me because Cold Snack wants to avoid this game has letdown potential, right? You just got a huge win over Jackson, in the final seconds, thrilling win. But now you have a Freehold Township team that's coming off a victory over Howell. two completely contrasting teams.
Yes, that's the
Township
word.
comes out throwing the ball like crazy, whereas Colts Neck is just lining up and coming right downhill at you with Chris Scully. So, it's a two different styles clashing there. But that's the thing about Colts Neck. It's like you don't want to get caught basking in last week, or you might get beat.
Again, you got those big, strong linebackers that stop and run in the box, and now they got to play the next week. Freehold Township that's going to air it out, run screens, draws. So it's a different style for the defense of Colts Neck too. So very interesting. We're going to see who adapts the most. Colts Neck is not going to stop. They're going to run power and right at you. So Freehold Township, they're practicing against their offense all the time in the summer and all that. So they're doing the finesse stuff. Now it's going to be big boy football, smacking them in the mouth. It's going to be interesting to see if Freehold Township could withstand the surge of the line.
And now you have two other teams whose season kind of is pretty much at a crossroads. I mean, you have winless Homedale going to a Monmouth regional team that's now dropped a couple in a row. So this is desperation time for both of these teams. You talked about must win just before in one of the other games. I think this is one of those games for both of these programs as far as if we're going to make anything of this season, we have to have this game.
Yeah, must win. Like you said, Monmouth has high expectations. Homedale lost a lot of good seniors. They have a lot of good program guys. They're going to have a lot of fight. This game will have a lot of fight. A lot of kids there working hard and all that. But, yeah, it's a must win for both teams, without a doubt.
And then much like Central Lacey, Keensburg, Lakewood, two teams, somebody's getting their first win in this game.
That's a fair thing to say. Javon Gonzalez is going to be a threat for Keensburg. Keensburg has a couple kids out. Lakewood needs this win. It potentially could be another high-scoring game. But defense is going to win it. Somebody's going to have to stop the other guy.
And obviously, we can't forget there is a Thursday game this week.
And I will.
And you're going to be going there, right?
Well,
you're going to go check these teams out.
I could safely say this because my wife doesn't watch my show. It is every time I want to go somewhere, it's always like a back to school night. So I'm going to this game instead of back to school night with my daughter, and that's going to be a tough one.
Terrible parent.
It better be a good game. It better be a good game because my wife's not going to talk to me for 4 days probably. But Pinelands.
Hopefully, that we'll be able to make it to the end of the year with your family still speaking to you.
I mean, I'm really interested to see the athleticism of Mattawan with still the power up front with the linemen. They're a really intriguing team. And John Tierney's doing a great job in his first year.
Look at Pinelands. What are they, 8 or 9 points away from being 3-0?
From being 3-0. And you never know what might happen with that, but he's got it going in the right direction.
Mattawan definitely a favorite. They're looking to continue the momentum going, but we'll see how that works out for a rare Thursday night. Not tilt there in the shore and
last game.
And obviously you'll be there, and I highly recommend the hamburgers.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to eat out because my wife's not going to be cooking for me.
Yeah, the hamburgers at Mattawan are great. So, there you go. So you just get there a little early, tuck into a couple burgers, watch some short conference football, and pray that the divorce papers are not on the table when you get home.
And Asbury Park, we're going to end it where they play Point Beach. We don't know what's going on in Asbury Park. We don't know who's going to be there the next week. So they're like a wild card. They could be a team that all of a sudden they have everybody and beat somebody 50-0, or they might have guys missing and then,
one thing that seems for certain is both of these teams can score. So you could see another, Point Beach just played a 33-30 game with Keyport. I could see another, and Asbury played a 30-22, I think it was, with Keyport. So you could see another kind of wild game between these two teams.
I could. Point Beach is, they play hard for Coach. They really do for Coach Zagone. Lost a heartbreaker last week. And that's a big difference, Scott. When your team is 1-2 instead of 2-1, even though it's only one game, that flipping of the win or loss is huge psychological for a team. Because kids overreact one way or the other, and then all of a sudden they're in Mayday, going the other way. They really are. But big week ahead in week 4. You and I are going to be at the game down in Red Bank Catholic. So we got a lot, and I'll be there Thursday. the night before. Some good football. Identities will start being shown by teams, and then we can start talking state playoffs and division
Yes, this is it.
and
This is
divisional
the
championships.
these next couple weeks decide everything for so many teams, and that's why I love games where it's like our season is on the line.
Yes.
Whether it's we're fighting for a championship, a state playoff, or anything,
Right.
and we've reached that time.
I love coaches don't like to talk about that, but we're not coaches, so we're going to talk about state playoff scenarios and also division championships or who's contenders for the championship. We can do that, right?
Absolutely, can't wait.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and we'll see everybody next week.